Hi, friends. Host Eric here, host Segment Visual. Why did that clonopin work well? This is the first and only time that I can recall having trouble waking Rachel up. I I tried to move her back into the bedroom at like, I don't know, 1 in the morning or something. She was out. This morning I moved her, got her up at like 6 in the morning, said, come back to the bedroom. She went and slept on the couch last night in the family room. She's welcome to sleep there, but it's kind of an indication to my dad that there's problems, like we're fighting or something, trying to avoid explaining. So anyway, and I was able to, I got her up this morning. She was just like, oh, she was asleep. She was fucking asleep. This girl does not sleep like that. I mean, I've never seen her sleep like that before. I've never seen her not immediately wake up when I touch her or enter the room even. She's such a light sleeper. But that pill that the doctor prescribed us for an emergency inhaler style pill to give her, we needed it yesterday for sure. And she took it at night. She did manage successfully to break up with me before she crashed out. But I'm confident that in the silver light of day, I don't think ultimately that I need to worry about that so much, take that seriously or anything. But it's really gratifying to see her really asleep. Yeah, that's fair enough, X Dark Prince. The MBTI type of COVID-19 is ESTP. I'll buy that for $1. So, she started taking her new medicine today, and I'm glad she has new medicine. I certainly don't. I'm interested in advocating on her behalf, basically, and trusting that when she's thinking clearly, she knows what she wants, more or less, and is ultimately the best source of information about her situation, rather than some expert, quote unquote. But I will tell you this, that I am definitely not in a having a strong position place. I'm in a trying to understand place. And so it's like, I was hypothesizing that bipolar might just be an extreme form of insomnia. I mean, I still sort of am hypothesizing that, but I'm also thinking it's the case that Rachel probably needs a daily pill, of some sort. But it's like my instincts on this are in flux. I'm not trying to advocate positions regarding this, because obviously this is not the sort of thing that is conditional. It's unconditional in the truest sense of the word. It's like what's going on is real in a way that, like, position statement, defense, or argument or whatever is not. And so, I basically won the argument with the psychiatrist that it's likely a sleep disorder first and something else symptomatically. And I was was very gratified to have chosen just by gut, I guess, an INTP psychiatrist because I could rely on him to deal with me fairly, which is important. And to not just stand behind his credentials as justifying everything and dismissing everything I say, because I made extremely cogent arguments, and I wasn't in there trying to win the argument. I was in there trying to make it abundantly clear to this doctor, not any other doctors that came before, what Rachel's position is, what she wants, and what she thinks, and that gives me a moral high ground that I wouldn't otherwise have arguing with a psychiatrist about their specialty, right? But Rachel has genuinely not been listened to by people in the mental health field for the better part of 10 years. She's been ignored. Everything she says about it, what's going on. So being bipolar is really important. It's so important for me and her. Because I ultimately want to understand rather than feel about this. And I see understanding as contradicting feeling about this. Because if you're dealing with somebody who has spells in which they say hurtful things periodically, then that's going to potentially damage a relationship substantially. Except it won't damage this one substantially, because the actual reality, the understanding I have that this is a spell that needs to be treated with some sort of drugs, renders what she says during that spell irrelevant to me. So it's like, well, it doesn't matter because this definitionally is deviating from a norm in which she doesn't say these things, in which she recants what she said during these periods of time and feels very embarrassed about it. And these stretches of time represent a stark departure from the norm that is both the norm in terms of majority of time and the norm in terms of who she actually is. So the thing is, she's not, her points are not without merit. It's not at all without merit that I do get during certain periods of time hyper distracted and detached and not that it will feel as though the deep connection that we have when we're attending to that is suddenly gone. Well, it's not. It's just my attention's elsewhere. But I do get that the way that I have a tendency to anticipate that my partner can just shift gears like I can and go from like persistent cross-time intimacy that comes with really attending to your significant other as this important person that you're delighted to see all the time. And then suddenly shift gears and be like, okay, now I'm working on this and I'm completely lost in this for days is a big ask of a partner. It's something I try to prepare for with my words, but you can't really prepare somebody for. The thing is, like, the problem is stuff that she's saying is not. She's not saying. She's not creating problems per se, but she's making them into much bigger problems than they are when she's experiencing one of these spells. So, but because she's not making shit up exactly, that there is a real potential program there. because there's a real kernel of problem there. It's something I'm aware of from past relationships too. This is not new to me. This is the story of my fucking life. Women not being able to respond well to me needing to turn my attention to other things after I've given them my attention for a stretch of time. It's like it's frustrating as hell because it's exactly what I give them my attention for, is so that they will be satisfied, and then I can attend to important things for a while, and then come back to the mushy part of life, and go back to the important part of life, and go back to the mushy part of life. And those things are both very important. But what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, I got to do what I got to do. It's not a commentary on the other person. I'm doing work. I consider it work. You might consider it play. It's work to me. But it's also true that I could have better discretion about this. That I could do a better job of taking a break, or making sure to attend to Rachel's needs as well. But what kind of rodent? Is it a capybara? What is this called? Capybara? Or big rodents? From South America, giant South American rodents. Capybaras? I'm fine. I'm good. I mean, I haven't talked to Rachel this morning because she's still out. She took a Klonopin last night, and it worked. It totally worked. She was out. So I'm very happy about that. That is great. Finally, a pill that is the rescue inhaler style pill rather than a maintenance style pill, because there are sometimes if the maintenance thing isn't working, or it's like what we happened here is basically she's switching meds, and there was a day that she was supposed to start her new meds on Saturday, and we didn't get to the pharmacy in time because she takes them right before bed. So it's like I went down there at 6:30 or something p.m. and it closed at 6 on Saturday. So I fucked up. That's my fault. I should check that. I take all responsibility for that. But anyway, so she's had to skip a day. I mean, and then Sunday, she was all weepy and depressive, and I mean, my point about that thing though is that here's the deal. When Rachel's in a spell like this, she's gonna find something to fixate on that's negative. It's what happens. It's like that's the thing we're talking about, really. And when she's not like this, she's quite reasonable. I wouldn't necessarily call her rational, but she's very reasonable and fair, and doesn't want to take away from other things that are important to me as well. So what I'm trying to get at here is I'm not sure, and I don't really think this is indicative of a big problem that Rachel has. I do think that this is indicative of a spot where she felt some hurt feelings, and that because of the period of time of mental health upheaval, that's what she's fixating on. Well, rational, I think maybe the easiest definition of it is non-magical thinking. It's the alternative to magical thinking. Now, in that definition, would I call Rachel rational? No. Reasonable means subject to being reasoned with. Namely, if I say, but what about this reason here? Doesn't that make sense? That normally she's very reasonable. Yeah, that does make sense. She acknowledges things when appropriate. She pushes back where appropriate in terms of acknowledgement. She's not a pushover in terms of agreeing with everything. Yeah, basically, magical thinking is introverted intuition. Like every other approach towards attention, it works, and it's not necessarily precise. It's like it's a modality that's useful for addressing certain kinds of questions. But for NI-DOMs, it's quite likely that instead of being the story they're telling, it's the story telling them. And that's what happens when Rachel's not operating optimally, is that the story's telling her instead of her telling the story. That's the best. I just thought that right now. It's the best way I could ever express what's happening. So when I start telling her things like, what about these other stories that are equally significant, in my opinion, and in any reasonable person's opinion in the moment would say, yeah, those outweigh this small concern that you built a huge mountain out of. But again, that's the symptomatic behavior of her having unclear, non-reasonable thinking. Irrational thinking is fine. That's par for the course for Rachel. She's a magical thinker. That's totally okay. I make her a much better magical thinker because I allow her to include more extroverted intuition into her magical thinking. It's safer. The story takes hold of her less often. And she's in charge of the story. Is her thinking unclear? It was yesterday. She said she told me herself she felt confused. But the thing is, I don't need a thinker necessarily in her life at all. In fact, I probably need not a thinker. But I do need a extroverted feeler and not an introverted feeler. I can't be with an introverted feeler. That would drive me insane. Basically, you could say Rachel's mental health problems are summed up as FI. FI becomes predominant. It's driving the bus. She's making decisions on a function that fundamentally people shouldn't make decisions on. And that's not just people who are like me, FI polar. Nobody should make decisions using their feelings. As a general rule, if you're talking about action, what does it mean to make a decision on your feelings? Well, it means to act on them. And basically, people shouldn't act on their feelings. They should wait for their feelings to subside and then decide what to do. I really got to poop. It's pushing out my butthole again. I am having this weird phenomenon where sometimes I really, really feel like I have to poop and I go in there and only poop a little bit. I don't think this is one of those times though. That was such a satisfying poop. Incredibly satisfying. They're fish, huh? Cool. I'm glad. Because, I'm tired of just having one taxonomy. Like, yeah, there's some ways in which we could figure out something's a mammal. But why do we have to use that way? I want there to be another taxonomy of the animal kingdom that I can refer to when I don't like the answer for the first taxonomy it gives me. And that could be the papal animal kingdom. What other things are fish? I want to know what other things are fish. Yeah, her NI is strong. But the thing is, no, signum cervicus. It's not a false feeling. It's a feeling where I'm anticipating more poop than it actually comes out. And then that means I'm still waiting for the main event. That was the main event. There was no mistake in that. That thing, I don't know how all that poop got up in me in the first place. Like, that must have been like a stored up gathering of poop from previous occasions where I didn't get all the poop out of me or something. It was one of those poops that it's like, it was like the spaceship at the beginning of Star Wars, going very slowly across the screen. This very long ship. Here comes my dad. What's going on, Dad? Let me mute this. Hold on.
Gibby decided she didn't want to go outside.
Yeah, it's a little wet. My dad couldn't understand his voicemail. He can't hear very well. He's got really bad hearing. And so he had to have me listen to it. It said it was from my mom's nursing home saying they needed more pads that you put on the bed. If they're people with the bed, we have those here, these disposable pads from when my mom was here. I tell you what else we have here because my mom was here, which is nice. We have wet wipes. Now, as a family, my family never had wet wipes. We always had just regular toilet paper. But because of my mom, we started getting wet wipes. And on poops like the one I just had, which is a big poop, and also definitely not a one wiper. The opposite of a one wiper. It's an anal soiling poop, right? So your anus is going to have a lot of soilage on it. Well, in those instances, boy, is it nice to have the wet wipes. That you can really make sure you get all the soilage off of your anus and return it to its native blue periwinkle state. My anus is periwinkle. That's the color of it. In fact, it's the standard, the international standard for periwinkle. So I often have clothing designers and such come and look at my anus to take notes on it. True story. Very true story. Extraordinarily true. If you haven't seen my new Richard Dawson video, please take a moment and watch it if you're willing to. I think you'll find it's worth the 11 minutes. It's tightly edited. It's designed to be as entertaining as possible, as I could make it, And it's I would say it's the most well produced video I've ever made. In terms of I've really put the effort in to write all the script of it, to do the narration well and carefully, to have all the audio sound good, to put down music underneath that's appropriate that I got from YouTube. That it's like free songs you can use in your videos. So it's the first time I've ever taken advantage of that, and boy, that just shows you how sometimes it's better not to. You gotta do the TE things that make sense. For me, cover their butt quack. To me, it's like, okay, well, I'm making a video. I need some some music underneath it. Well, this is a good opportunity for me to just use some of my own music underneath it without the vocal parts. Well, but that's the thing is, I'm not thinking in terms of the video then. I'm not really being attentive to the video. The most important thing about the music in the video, and music in the video like the one I made last night, well, I mean, it took me a long time to make that, is that the music serve this purpose as a score, not that it do anything else. It needs to serve its purpose as a score and be emotionally in the same place as the video, more or less. YouTube's got a lot of great music you can use for free in your videos to choose from. Shit tons of it. Absolutely shit tons of it. Classical music, whatever. All of a sudden my eyes are kind of opened up as to the possibilities here, because there are a couple of things that I do really well that I'm not exploiting very much. The first of them is writing, and the second of them is narration. So because I can write and narrate stuff really well, I need to take better advantage of that. And to maximally take advantage of that, once it's written and narrated well, it needs also to have a score underneath it that is consistent with, that helps the viewer to know what mood to be in, so to speak. Rachel and I watch Naruto, and Naruto's got these very distinct songs for each of the moods of the show. There's the planning to, like the busy planning song. And then there's the bad guys planning song. And then there's the back on, everything's good and we're being playful song. Oh, it's fine. The playful music's here. And then there's the like Dark Things in Motion song. That kind of thing. You know, and they show the enemies. Oh, and they're all planning. Well, I want to do that. The thing is, making a good video or making a video that's, regardless of whether anybody thinks it's good or not good or whatever, is that making a video where I'm maximally trying hard to make it good anyway requires me to just pay attention to that. It's like it's that simple. I can't ignore that stuff. And Rachel's helped me to sort of coalesce myself into a more NI frame. So it's one of the reasons why the way this particular spell went and period of time that, you know, I contributed to a bit as well too, because, you know, I was particularly distracted. I was, you know, all these things that put added pressure on Rachel's normal carrying, you know, ontological carrying capacity. What's the difference between a jeweler and a jailer? One sells watches and one watches sells. That's good. It's obviously SELL, SE misput, but it's raining quite a bit here. It really rained hard last night, which is great. We're having a filthy wet March and April, which is great. Perfect. Everything's blossoming is right. Birds are singing. Bees are buzzing. I got a whole box of them in my backyard, except I'm assuming they're probably not really doing anything right now because it's so cold and mud outside. They're kind of fair weather creatures, bees. They don't really like to go out in bad weather. Kind of fussy about that. The thing is, I don't think people a lot of times are quite aware of just how significant a role score plays in video. It's easy to not pay attention to it if you're a word-based person and you're just listening to the words and the meanings. Nevertheless, it's impacting the person's experience because people are accustomed to media having music that mirrors the mood of the media, and that's easy to do. All I got to do is pay enough attention to make it happen. It's straightforward. Oi, babushka, beba, bepa, babushka, bepka, beba, bepa, babushka, bepa, babushka, bepa, babushka, bepa. Is that your name is spelled, pronounced to me? Babushka Vera. Oh, Babushka Vera. It's not Beppa. It's Vera. Babushka Vera. That's easier to say by far than Babushka Beppa. I tell you whose name is really difficult to say. I say Binay. That one catches me a lot. I say Binay. I say Binay. I say Binay. It's a hard one to say. So, the thing is, I get the idea, Horse Mumbler, of like having a channel that's just devoted to those things, and that makes a lot of sense. But the thing is, this channel is called Talking with Famous People, and I made that video in the notion that one can succeed in multiple vectors. It's quite possible to have one video be very successful and not have very many subscribers and not make other successful videos. A lot of people have that phenomenon occur. Also, this video is specifically targeting search. It's saying, I want to make a topic that does not require, I want to make a video that is broadly appealing to everybody. Not everybody, but, you know, it's broadly appealing rather than narrowly so. It's a formula I can repeat if I wanted to and get individual videos potentially that earn money, because this channel is monetized, and obviously it's not straightforward to be monetized anymore like it used to be. When I monetized at first, I had 0 subscribers. I just automatically monetized when you begin. That was how it was. But then they switched to 1,000 subscribers. By the time they switched that, I was already over 1,000 subscribers, so it didn't matter. I met all their criteria, and I continue to meet all their criteria. So I might as well take advantage of that. It's like the other thing is, what I've noticed is if I am being suppressed, it's not search. They're not suppressing search. And I mean, my skill set, Winston's Mom. Have you watched the Richard Dawson video by any chance? Winston's Mom. My skill set, what I was saying is, it's probably the most significant part of my skill set is being vastly underutilized. The thing that makes the one thing that's the biggest common denominator of videos of mine that have been more successful compared to other videos of mine, or compared against other videos of mine, is that the videos of mine that have been persistently successful and had good legs typically were written rather than just freestyled, although not always. It's not a uniform rule, but like, for example, INFP Nurtures Fragile Ward was a written video that was way too TI. I mean, way too big of a video. It's like covering too much of a topic instead of just limiting it to. I just limited it to the writing part that was narrative and expressed, in very artful language, the depth and moistness of the INFP. Then the video would probably be doing 10 times as well. In fact, I was thinking about going back and, uploading onto this channel again videos that had a lot of potential, but I wasn't good enough in the editing, cutting them down to a more, paying attention to what's going to keep a viewer's attention throughout the entire video, because that's what's ultimately going to make for a successful video. I think that because this Richard Dawson video, as I watch it this morning, last night I was having some qualms because I thought there was a little section in the middle I actually would like to cut out, which is the military section or something. That's true, Horse Mumbler. That's true. It's assuming. Okay, well, there's a couple of things. One, the cost is in terms of time, which is the most important cost of all. If I'm going to take the time to set something like that up, I need to make sure I'm going to follow through on it consistently over time, that in fact it's the right idea to direct my attention and time to, because I only have a finite amount of it to direct to things. That video I made on Richard Dawson took a long time to make and cost me a lot in terms of difficulties with Rachel, even though I included her in the process and she's narrating, half-ish of it. And I'm sure she will be happy long term to have that video up there. She does a great job. She's a great narrator as well. And I think it works really well to have a male and female voice switching. So she's great like that. And I think when she wakes up today, she's going to have a sense of like, oh, I'm really happy that that's in my personal file now of things that I've done. I also included her in the song that I made recently, although I haven't uploaded that one yet. I like that song. I haven't really gotten any good feedback on it from anybody. What I mean by good feedback, I haven't heard from other people that they like it particularly a lot. So I'm not sure it's going to do well, but I like it, I think. And she's on that as well. Again, I think she'll start to maybe get a sense of the nice side of SI, which is keeping track of what you've already done and allowing yourself to be happy and proud of that, and not pulling the INFJ move of I made some things, now I'm not sure they're perfect, so I'm going to take them all down. That's like textbook INFJ shit that Rachel does over and over again. um, I'm more magical than most TeamSpeaks, I would say. Okay, well, I agree with that, Horse Mumbler, and that's a good argument for doing what you're saying, making a channel that's. But see, I'm not sure. It's like YouTube's going to choose one of them. It would seem to me to be the search result I'm looking for. Maybe both. I'm not sure. It's like YouTube obviously has a vested interest in making sure that that doesn't happen, right? That one person doesn't upload different versions of the same video on multiple channels, seeing which one does, better, and then have the search results end up showing the first 5 results all be different versions of the same video. Like YouTube ideally would like that not to be the case. So they probably have some sort of exclusionary calculus there, right? But I'm not sure. And this is one thing that makes it challenging with YouTube is nobody knows how it works exactly. Why did YouTube do what to me? Right now it appears they're not doing anything to me. It appears that this channel is back to how it used to be and it is behaving normally again. I'm not sure if that's going to stay that way or not. But what I do note is that none of these things that during the entire suppression period, as I would call it, it didn't seem to affect search at all. And I ultimately decided after a lot of thought that maybe the best course of action, at least a course of action I'm definitely going to take, are these one-off videos that make an attempt to win on search, get ideally millions of views, and earn money accordingly, and that don't require any larger framework than that, right? So if I've got multiple of those videos going with legs, so to speak, they get a lot of views and earn a fair amount of, decent amount of money each, $25 or whatever, and I get some of those going and they're steady, then well, they had been. I think they're done suppressing it for the moment. I don't know. The reason they had been suppressing it is I got a warning and then a strike. The suppression started as soon as I got the warning. I got a warning for bullying C.S. Joseph, of all things. You might correctly point out that it seems it's hard to imagine how I can bully C.S. Joseph when he's 5 times as big as I am. But I used abusive language in the video, so I get it. And what I didn't understand at the time, I didn't take the action I needed to take to make sure I understood the new system well enough. And one thing I didn't get was that it's not like it used to be where warnings drop off of your channel. Warnings and strikes stay on your channel forever. And then I got a strike. The second thing I got, the strike was bullshit. I got a strike for hate speech. I've not engaged in any hate speech on YouTube or anywhere else, frankly. I'm the opposite of hate speech. I'm the person who opposes groupism. But there was some satire in there, I guess. It was about World War II, it was about Hitler, and it got me a hate speech strike. So that's bullshit. But regardless, it is what it is. So as to why they were suppressing me, regarding why they were suppressing me, well, they were suppressing me because they decided that they don't want to promote content like Mia. The thing is, though, my content is not content like Mia. I have been guilty in the past of doing some videos of the sort that like Sargon of Akkad used to do, where he's just basically just launching into a litany of abuse. Yeah, come on in. A litany of abuse to try to come on in.
I'm going to take the pads down. I'm going to leave my phone here in case the AirTech guy calls.
Okay.
The access is 7172.
Yeah, I know it.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Bye.
All right, Dad. Well, I mean, the thing is, it is challenging for people who don't have the right cognitive function stack, I guess, for one thing, or the right understanding for another thing, to manage dissent in a community successfully, you've got to have a community that's absolutely that allows, even encourages dissent. And you've got to be able to distinguish between instances where dissent is legitimate and instances where it's simply being divisive. If you're having FI in the mix, then you can't make those kind of decisions, and you can't possibly have a healthy community. You can't have a healthy community without allowing dissent. So Cloud was kicked out of the personality database group or whatever because he was too abrasive. He's welcome here. Why? Well, because I can handle myself. Those other people can't handle themselves, and as a consequence, they get their feelings hurt, and so they ban somebody. I only ban people who are spite monkeys. What I mean by spite monkeys, they're entirely here to do damage, and they're not just. It's not like they're just abrasive and argumentational. They're purposefully here to do that, to attack me personally, or to make sure that it's impossible to have any reasonable conversations. Fixate on one thing or whatever, like Corey Clown or Nikki O'Loins or Jane or those kind of people that are going to be, there are people, look, everybody has to make decisions about which lines they're going to cross and which ones they're not in life. And there's certain lines, you cross them, then you lose defensibility. And that's ultimately, if you want a sort of a rational reason to be moral, it's because you have to be if you want to win the argument ultimately. Hypocrisy is too, it makes you too vulnerable. And besides that, you're going to have to call upon, on occasion, your own character as a reason for things, because sometimes that is the reason for things. It's like, well, why can I trust you? Because I'm a person of character. And because I understand that behaving in an untrustworthy fashion, that in a way that is lacking in character, is something I won't do for reasons larger than this particular issue, whatever it is. And it's like, you know that you can trust me because this thing that we're talking about right now, whatever it is, whoever you are, is linked contiguously backwards and forwards with things that have happened before and things that happen in the future by a frame of who I am as defined by what I won't do. First and foremost, what I won't do. And then only thereafter, possibly what I will or should or can or must, you know? Because that's what makes somebody trustworthy. If you know they won't do meow, they're trustworthy. Trusting people to do things is always a ragged proposition. I might trust you to bring this particular necessary thing to the job site today, but if you crash on the way to the job site, you know, well, it's not your fault exactly. Let's say somebody crashes into you, a drunk driver crashes into you, totals your car. You survive, you're okay, but you know the shit you were going to bring there, you have no way to get there, and it's all broken now. Well, that's why that person's not untrustworthy because they didn't get the shit there. They're just, shit happens. That's why trustworthiness is ultimately first and foremost about what one will not do. To say that you trust somebody means you know that they will not, yeah. And for example, I've said, I need to know that one of the reasons why I don't like words that suggest that the relationship isn't rock solid is that well, what good are the subscribers? Except for see what I'm saying? It doesn't actually help with this particular stratagem. I'm just not seeing enough benefit here to. I don't want to cannibalize myself. But I should talk video conference, Horse Mumbler. And I am not at all unwilling to hear and defer to when appropriate your superior TE, which you do have because demonstrative is very visible, but frankly, not to be relied upon. Whereas ignoring is a lot stronger, so to speak. I hate to use the word strong, weak, but ignoring what? Look, if your demonstrative is form, then you're ignoring its function. So it's like I demonstrate TE because I need to demonstrate TE, or because life's demanding of me something that TI is not solving. But it's really just a form of TE, and it's not true to the most robust elements of the attentional manner. Whereas my NI is absolutely true to the most robust elements of the attentional manner, but it had trouble frame management. I have trouble with trees and forests with introverted intuition. So I'll be too locked in on these trees that are going, this works, and not really remember to know, well, do they work together? You know? It is really raining good here in Arcadia. We're getting a solid amount of water out of this storm, which is great. I'm quite confident that the fishing is going to be really good. So if your demonstrative is form, not formed. I'm just making an analogy. Like, if we were to think of form and function, like, well, this is a beautiful looking jacket, but it doesn't keep you warm, or something like that. That's demonstrative. It's a beautiful looking jacket that doesn't keep you warm. And ignoring the warm jacket that doesn't look good. It doesn't look like anything. Yeah, it is really coming down. It makes me worry about my bees. I mean, they're in the box, but it's not what I'd call a particularly robust shelter. But I guess, bees are used to not especially robust shelters. Oh, see, only for TE people, Winston's mom. For TI people, function follows form. In other words, be legitimate first, and then we'll see what the purpose of it is. All right, first pass the legitimacy test, then we can discuss your TE shit. You think of TE fifth is reflexively tactical? I see openings and I want to push them. I can't really know if they're worth anything until push forward or stand or fail. Fall. TE is hit or miss like that. Well, I mean, that's the thing about TE is it requires more ordinality than is possible here.
a good TE approach understands how many steps are involved and the order in which they occur. And TI people tend to just collapse the TE steps into, well, and then you just do all the upload stuff. It's not that much work. But it's not being very realistic about the way life works. It's like, okay, but am I? So in order for this plan to work, though, I have to be consistent about following through on this particular plan to the exclusion of others, and I have to ignore opportunism going forward. That's what it means to truly SE and SI thing, which is why SE DOMs are not really great at follow through. It's because the other aspect of SE, the opportunistic aspect, ends up taking over ends up being the determinant factor. It's like being an action type means you want to be able to act freely now. You don't want to be locked into forces of behavior that prevent you from freely acting now in response to things. So I have to be realistic about myself too. It's like, am I really going to follow through on this plan to the exclusion of all others? If that's the case, I need to know what the plan is very clearly and why it's so much better than the ability to be flexible or make decisions on the fly. The great thing about the plan I have currently with these videos, Richard Dawson's type videos, making those occasionally, is that, like I said, they're one-offs. So they don't have to, I'm not requiring them to make a channel successful to earn money and make me more successful. And if their link isn't there, that's okay. Number two, they link them with the channel name, talking with famous people. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, though. It's like, this is the problem with a TE-NI approach, is it's asking me to direct my natural inclination to act in the moment within a certain frame only, to the exclusion of others. All TE-NI frames require the forsaking of the NES-SE frame in the moment, namely, don't suddenly launch off on another new idea that seems better now than the one you decided on, and don't take advantage of another opportunity that you see that might be seeming more appealing than the one plan you're currently on. And those are the realities of following through on any of the various suggestions that I receive from people. And I don't dislike the suggestions. I think that it's a good opportunity for me to explain how like the realities of TE-NI versus TIFE or TINE, and also the challenge that I face trying to remember both that I have to be realistic about myself and my ability to follow through, and I have to be realistic about the fact that whatever plan I'm going to pursue is going to mean necessarily sacrificing other potentialities. Then I'm going to have to let some things that I like to do go. I'm going to have to forsake some projects. This is something I understand, but it's another reason why the appeal of the celebrity, like the true Hollywood story kind of videos. If in fact I'm right about my frame there, then that is a kind of video that doesn't require me to have an ordinal plan. In fact, it specifically is designed to take advantage of search. And my sort of, I'm gambling my time in this instance, knowing that if I do this right, it'll pay off slowly, because it'll be like my Don Adams video. My Don Adams video is the second search result on YouTube when you type in Don Adams. And that's kind of big. Not that Don Adams is the hugest, most famous person in the world. I think this Richard Dawson video has probably a little bit more broad appeal than Don Adams, because I think he's a little bit more well-known, Richard Dawson is. And I think that the kissing element gives it a little bit more NI pop. So
Hornswoggle bears no resemblance to an ISTJ at all, which is why he has sleeping issues as well. ISTJs do not have sleeping problems. They might have imaginary physical ailments. ISTJs will do that because they're trying to TE their body. But extroverted intuition is neither rational nor irrational. Introverted intuition is irrational, but resonates within a reason-based frame. It's objective. It's irrational, but it's objective, and that's the key thing to remember: is rationality isn't very important, but objectivity is, because objectivity tells us a real distinction between people. It's like if you are understanding things as needing to be resonant universally, whether it's through holistic NI, magical thinking, or something else, then you're on one team. And if you're thinking that things only need to be resonant personally, then you're on another team. And it's hard for those two teams to communicate effectively. I mean, I'm confident that Rachel does support me and all that stuff. My point is that I'm also not interested in making this a binary thing. It's easy for TI people to go, look, it's this or that, and that's it. And we got, nah. I recognize this is not this or that, and that's it. The reality is I need to put myself in Rachel's shoes and remember that she's that it would be necessarily quite a shock to somebody's system to go from getting a lot of like moisture and attention from me since she got here, and then I go on speed, and all of a sudden I go, all right, it's time for me to work now, and I disappear. And when she comes out to try to talk to me, I'm in the middle of stuff. I didn't do a great job of taking breaks and making sure. I mean, I didn't do a terrible job of it. We definitely had our stretches of time where we were connected and stuff, and I did give her plenty of attention over the last week or so. But that's why I'm very hesitant to talk about the specific things that are comprising the dispute between me and Rachel, because I don't think they're real. I think they're indicative of Rachel's mental health state right now, which hopefully will be vastly better this morning, because that Klonopin worked like a motherfucker. I am so happy about that. She was actually out. Like, I could walk in the room, she wouldn't wake up, kind of shit. Nothing's wrong with ISTJ. The thing is, you can best the problem with using words rational and irrational the way that Carl Jung did, or the way when he uses the words objective and subjective, he doesn't define them, not in any meaningful sense. Hi, Lyra, Fajical, Olo, Holo. And so, look, you've got to operationalize your terms. What that means is you define them in ways that meaningfully conscribe your ground. So, is that the right word, conscribe? I think I'm thinking of a different word. It means to like constrain or limit your ground, but conscribe. I mean, I know what conscription means, but constrict or limit, right? Okay, cool. Circumscribe, constrict, limit, right? To conscribe your why you're using this language. It's like, okay, irrational in the way Jung used them, I think, meant in terms of much logic was used, meaning facts. Okay, See, this is the problem. If he's using terms that we have to guess what he means by them, that's a problem. He's not operationalizing his terms. To operationalize one's terms means to define them such that they can describe your ground. And then, of course, to respect those ground conscriptions when it comes time to define other things as well. So one way you could describe rational is parsable. Namely, if I can deconstruct the justifications and break it down and it's complete in some sense, then it's parsable. It's justifiable on TI grounds. If I can break it down its overall net benefits and costs, then it's parsable by TI grounds. INFJs seem to have no idea what a functional term is in my experience. Well, that's not necessarily the case. I think I've had INFJ debaters that can be very good, and they certainly learn how to use language better as a consequence. Jung says, I'm not what happened to me, I'm what I choose to become. Spoken like an NI Dom. Of course, it's actually spoken like an NE Dom. To be perfectly honest, that quote is an NE Dom quote. I like to tell Rachel or other people when I'm having conflicts, remember, we choose the stories we tell, and the stories we tell come true. That's what that is. Okay. Remember, we choose the stories we tell, and the stories we tell come true. Is an NE Dom thing. An NI Dom thing is, I am not what happened to me. I am not what I do. I am a pattern of ontology that moves through time, spinning around, always expressing different sides of its nature and visible form, but fundamentally the same thing from beginning to end. I like to poke holes in things. To what type would this be typical? Well, I mean, do you mean physically poke holes in things or metaphysically poke holes in things? If you want to explain why somebody's words are actually don't sustain scrutiny or don't withstand scrutiny, well, then that's a TI thing. And so if that were your sort of, if it was something you did you got a lot of great satisfaction from it, it would be probably third slot. If it's something that you just do by default all the time towards everything, it's probably second slot. If you have a rich and nuanced relationship with it, it's probably first slot. I'm a judger in that I have TI and TE as implicit absolute values. INTP perceptions are just tools that serve the judgments. Yeah, I mean, and that's where INTPs and ENTPs can both communicate beautifully and also talk past each other. So the psychiatrist was very much about the judgments. At the end of it, it was very important to the psychiatrist to tell me he agreed with me about a bunch of things and that those were correct conclusions to draw. I was in that conversation once I realized that once I noted that I was going to get what I wanted, I was ready to stop arguing. I was being TE about this whole thing. And I was accustomed to and anticipate the make nice period, giving the other person extra space to be right and call me wrong and stuff, So that's fine because I don't care really about TI, right? I was correct about everything, but it was instrumentally used. What I cared about in that instance was getting my beloved Rachel what she needed and getting me what I needed to make sure my beloved Rachel stayed my beloved Rachel. But he's not an ENTP. You can tell by the sloppiness of the TI. That is NI all the way through. His shit's NI all the way through. He's an INFJ. But INFJs and ENTPs, to people who, especially for people who don't have a nuanced understanding of FE, can look a lot like each other. Cloud, you are indeed loved. I really love the fact that you got kicked out of someplace else. You're not going to get kicked out of here because I can handle myself, unlike other people in the world who can't handle themselves. Oh no, Cloud's here and he's provoking me. And therefore I'm going to kick him out because I'm weak as F. Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not weak like that. I don't have any opinion about Dentici. I never had an opinion about what his type is. I just had speculation. I speculated he might be an INFJ. I don't know. I've not really talked to him, to be honest. I've communicated with him via text and stuff. Right. See, Cloud, the difference is this. When you come here, you have a chance to successfully provoke me and make me upset or whatever. But if you do successfully do that, you don't have to worry about it. There's no harm. No harm, no foul. I will always interpret those sort of things as my bad. A learning opportunity for me to not get bamboozled by Cloud's provocateuriness. So I understand my job is to like basically learn what I can from interacting with you, and to learn to interact with you more successfully. My job is not to win all the exchanges. Sometimes you successfully piss me off, and but I tell you, I think a lot about the questions you ask me later too. When you're pointing out that Rachel's sleep patterns are more consistent with ENFJ than INFJ, well, that's true, and it makes me think a lot about, okay, well, Rachel seems to have split SI. Like her SI metaphysical is definitely INFJ style metaphysical, but I would concede that her SI physical seems more ENFJ, and it makes me think a lot. Do I have any answer for that yet? No, I'm just still musing about it. But I appreciate you bringing up things like that sometimes are straightforward objections that get glossed over because I just kind of go, well, I don't really have a clear answer to that part of it, and I forget that I need to go back to it and make sure I do have a clear answer to it. It might be quite an important question. I can't just ignore it and let it slide by. So that's great. If you want to be my lover, you got to get with my friends. Like Mel and Danny Glover, friendship never ends. That should have been the lyrics of that song. Don't you agree? Like Mel and Danny Glover. Yeah, and Cloud, I want to stress that it's, when I say to you, like, you're not making good arguments, that's generally true. But just because you're not making good arguments to win a point doesn't mean you're not raising good points that need to be addressed. It just means that those good points that you're raising don't necessarily serve the end that you think they're serving. But that's fine. And everybody does better in an environment that sharpens them in ways that they are able to be sharpened. This environment sharpens me exactly in ways that I'm able to be sharpened. It threatens me in ways that don't matter much. Like, in other words, most people have trouble with being a YouTuber when they start getting hate or negative comments and stuff like that. Then that starts to bother. Sometimes it bothers people a lot. It doesn't bother me much at all, frankly. At first I would, be very, hey, and I try to argue with bad comments and stuff early on in the YouTube channel. And I was argumentative with commenters for a long time. People would say something about evolution, and I'd make video, and then they say something else, and I'd make another video, and all that shit. But I've come to understand that, like with a lot of things in life, I decide what story I'm telling, and that's the story that ends up being the thing that happens. So it's like, if I want to tell a story that I need to argue with commenters all the time because, then that's what I am going to end up doing. And that's not what I really think is a good use of my time. The fact is, I've gradually come to understand that a lot of people who are putting sort of comments or whatever are not like Cloud. They are trolling. Cloud's not trolling. Cloud is provoking, but not trolling. And there's a huge, huge difference. If somebody's just trying to waste my time, then I'm not well served to allow them to do so. It's like Becky texted me yesterday. Can we have a civil conversation on WeChat? Like, I'm going to respond to that. It's such an obvious attempt at frame walking things. Can we have a civil conversation? Not anymore. There was a time when we could have, but you chose not to have it at that point. I reached out for a conversation with Becky on a number of occasions. Those efforts were ignored. Yeah.
Here,
Hi. What?
it's done.
Oh, your phone, right. Here you go.
Okay.
I got no sound from the phone.
Okay.
So, like, I'm not going to obviously respond to that because what's the message implicit if I respond to it at all? If I say, well, frankly, if I were to say, I don't think you can, then that would mean we're still back in the time when we could be potentially talking. In other words, nobody's done anything terribly wrong to the other person yet. It's just we're having conflict. We're not in that time anymore. Becky emailed my dad multiple times, double down, triple down, quadruple down when I told her not to do it. And, so no, she's forsaken the opportunity to deal with me as an equal now by wronging me in very explicit ways that are not okay. When things are in the conditional realm and we're just making arguments and stuff, well, we were just making arguments. But when you take action to defame somebody's character to their father, and that was defamation of character because, well, some of the things she was saying in there were true. Some of them were false enough that they comprise defamation of character. I've never done that to Becky. I've never defamed her character because everything I say about her is true. And I don't really say about her anything. I'm just describing things she's done, like, texting me yesterday, emailing my dad, etc. So, and Cloud, I appreciate your resistance to accountability avoidance syndrome because that's the thing. If you want to be, anybody in the world wants to be difficult as they want to be. That's fine. As long as they don't have accountability avoidance syndrome. Because I know I make mistakes, and when I do, I expect and I'm willing to take my lumps accordingly. I will sit there and take your finger wags and if I fuck up, then I deserve it, and that's it. So anyway, the psychiatrist, he seemed to think that it was very important, as Horseman was saying, that the conclusions about these disputes that we were having, not disputes, but points of argumentation that we had gone through, each of which I had basically won. And we both knew it. There wasn't any, he was not trying to avoid, once I started discussing the shit with him, he tried a lot of different angles, of attacking or defending, and none of them worked at all. And but because he's an INTP, he ended up. It was very important to him that I sit there and listen to him tell me that he agreed with me about all this stuff at the end of the session, because for him the judgments are important. For me, the judgments are instrumental. Because you can't defend what you're doing, then we should do what I want. And once we're in agreement on that, then we're in agreement on
We'll be
that.
here in about 10 minutes.
Okay, cool.
So we expect him about, I don't know, 9, 5, 9, 10.
All right, cool. Thanks, Dad.
Okay.
It's like I guess that's why I see argumentation in general and TI in general as so much about legitimacy and justification, because I don't view it as something that does anything particularly at all in the sense of doing things. I think of it as that which prevents us from doing the wrong things. And it's the anti-doing function. TI, that's how I understand it. But when it's paired with SE, it's not understood like that by those people. Oh, I feel this nauseous in my stomach, which means I need to eat something. Should also drink something other than coffee. Because Cloud, we see the preciousness of the individual experience in every creature. I see it in my cat and her individual experience being important to her and being easily enough understood. You know, she's a separate being of and needs to be treated as such. It's Constantine's logical imperative. Treat other agents as a means to an end, not as an end in themselves. I mean, treat other agents as an end in themselves, not as a means to an end. In other words, don't apply instrumentality to people. Least likely type to be vegan, 7 slot FI. Probably that's true. But I mean, you actually, I'm not sure. I would say possibly your SFJs, STJs are least likely to be vegan, because with their own personal experience, if they're grew up eating meat, then that's it. There's not any revisiting that. They already know meat works fine for them. They don't need to revisit that at all. Talking with famous people. Hi, I'm your host Eric, and welcome to Talking with Famous People. If you love this voice, then you'll love hearing me use this voice. All life is holy and being vegan is easy. Oh, if all life is holy, then why are you eating vegetables? Yuck. Are you only eating fallen fruit? The thing is, just because we ought respect each creature doesn't mean we can't eat them. I absolutely think that human beings have a custodial responsibility when they domesticate animals to make sure those animals are respected as individuals and known as individuals to a certain extent. And certainly that's not what's going on with big factory cattle farms and stuff like that. It's a forsaking of our positive duty to be good custodians of that which is both alive and being utilized as a resource. Kant would say that it's okay to be instrumental towards animals because they aren't moral agents. And that one of the implicit realities of being a moral agent is that capacity to oh, horse mumbler, that's so adorably INTP of you. Well, it's true that not all animals are equal. It's also true that not all humans are equal, but it is true that all, at least cognitively normal humans, are moral agents. And as a consequence, they're subject to the implicit definitional realities of moral agency. The fact that you know that you are subject to injustice, for example. You can imagine something happening to you that would be unjust, that would violate your being, your rights, your expectations, and be harmful to you, and in a way that's very unfair. Since we can imagine that, that's all that's required really for us to understand that we are moral agents with responsibilities. And so what proves your quality as a human? It's a good question, but I'd say the most important answer to make is that it's irrelevant to the question of moral agency. Okay? It may be the case that some people are better than others in some senses or some other senses, but they're equal in terms of their moral agency. Namely, they're equally responsible for limiting the nature and quality of their agency to that which is legitimate. Consciousness. Do you see the difference between a CEO and a drug addict? I mean, I would say that a CEO is a job title and a drug addiction is a way of life. So I don't understand what the similarity is. Drug addicts can become CEOs. Non-drug addicts can also become CEOs. Why would I not see what? Your mom's face at my birthday party? I don't understand. Why would you not see what? Why would I not see what? Okay, I'll take a look at that. I'll take a look. I mean, the thing is, there may well be other things that I can do that would be helpful and stuff to look into and such, but I'm basically, any of those kind of questions are ill-timed right now because we're in the middle of changing medications. We need to wait and see for how our new medication works. She just got a good night's sleep because that Klonopin worked like magic. I'm going to wait and see how she is. There may not be a problem on this new medication that she takes every day. And if a problem does arise, then at that point, I will give her a rescue inhaler pill. But the thing is, the next week is going to be a critical test for this new medication because I am determined to not give her another one of those pills she has them in the room, but the doctor and I both wanted, and Rachel agreed to it, that I'd be in charge of deciding when to give her one of those pills because one of the symptoms of her mental health issue is that when she's in that state, she doesn't have very good judgment about herself and whether she's being sane or not. I'm quite confident that most effective CEOs are probably drug addicts, probably on speed. I mean, of course, the thing about the term drug addict is it's misframing the thing, right? Most highly successful people probably regularly use the drugs that are available in the world to maximize their effectiveness. At least a significant portion of them do. Does that make them drug addicts? Drug addict is a term people tend to use for other people, not for themselves. For instance, bombs up eye is fine. God, why do you care so much? Yeah. What a nightmare to have to include FI and everything. It's why I have it where it belongs in the 7th slot where it doesn't cause any problem. I gotta tell you, I really do think objectively from my analysis, ENTPs have the luckiest stack to have if they don't make themselves homeless, just fuck up their life beyond all repair. So if you can get out of your 20s in one piece, or at least maybe out of your early 30s in one piece, then we're well adapted for the world. But we're also well adapted to just crash and burn before that. So no, I agree, Cloud, that somebody who's highly successful is more successful than somebody who's conventionally unsuccessful by a drug addiction. But what's your point? Well, because we don't like regularity. We don't like a plan to constrain us. We don't like to have a clear course. We want to be able to act on our various ideas as they excite us. That means setting aside the thing we're supposed to be doing consistently. No, not all humans are equally successful. It's what we could conclude from that. That's what I said. Is that it's true. Some are more successful than some are others, and others are less successful. Equal in what terms? But I mean, you're saying not all humans are equally large. Correct. Not all humans are equally smart. Correct. Not all humans are equally patient. Correct. Not all people are equally mourned. Correct. True. Not all people are equally mourned. I found it very useful learning about firefighters and managers from Becky. It's a useful metaphor. Let me share it with you. Managers are aspects of yourself that step up to deal with stuff in a normal way, more or less. But that is something that requires dealing with, as opposed to taking it like, in the bath, taking a bath and just enjoying sitting there. I'm not being required to deal with anything. They're not talking about situations like that, but I'm not required to deal with something. A manager is something that will deal with it in your normal way, more or less. It's one of the various strategies or scripts you have in responding to things. So a manager, for example, is the thing that says, okay, let's just hold on a second. Let's calm down. Let's find something where we can agree on and work from there. That's a manager. We're trying to deal with a problem. A firefighter is when some kind of a problem erupts where you no longer feel as though your managers are fit to deal with it. Like normally your managers would never let you squirt water all over a building. But your firefighters know that if the building's on fire, you need to squirt water on it. Your firefighters respect the fact that sometimes you have to do a little water damage to something in order to save it. But here's the problem. With human beings, we can't really trust our firefighters, usually, unless we're fairly optimized. Because for us, if we're feeling like shit's on fire, most people's firefighter is some sort of fuck it, I'm just going to go out and get drunk. Everything's going to hell anyway, I don't give a fuck. That's a firefighter. It protects you from feeling all the pain of the reality you're dealing with. Firefighters most often occur when people are in relationships where the other party there's some sort of conflict, big problem. Like if you get cheated on, you're gonna have a firefighter. That's where I also highly prioritize that FE thing. The thing is, it plays out very differently, right? It wasn't so much about being called out publicly for me. It was about knowing that another person viewed me as an embarrassment. So one absolute deal breaker in a relationship instantly for probably any EHP is if you don't think your partner respects you or they're embarrassed about you. Like Isaiah Rude was in Pittsburgh with Rachel from Pittsburgh, not my Rachel. And when she wouldn't introduce him to her friends, then he was gone because he felt as though she thought him an embarrassment. That's not gonna fly. So it's like, I don't mind people trying to embarrass me in front of other people. That's to be expected from an EHP's perspective. It's like, we do battle out on the external metaphysical field. But I can't have a relationship with somebody who views me as an embarrassment. Why am I attracted to damaged goods? I don't think I'm attracted to damaged goods necessarily. Maybe damaged goods are attracted to me. But it's definitely not Rachel's damage that I'm attracted to. Rachel has, and I'm not sure Rachel's damaged. Rachel has a mental health problem. When Rachel's not in the throes of that mental health problem, she's quite healthy. She doesn't seem to have any sort of trust issues, attachment disorders, or anything like that. She's incredibly easy partner to be with, and good partner to be with. And we really are incredibly compatible. Persistence is an FI thing, I guess, SEFI thing. The most persistent kind is the ESFP. Naruto is the most persistent guy ever. Some ENFJs are relationshipy, some of them are not meant to be in relationships. But that's true of a lot of types. Persistence is SEFI, yeah. You would say, therefore, I don't have very much persistence. Well, I don't, as a matter of fact. I don't have persistence. I always try to avoid any kind of battle of attrition, any kind of thing that requires sustained follow through. I know I'm fucked. If I get into a battle and I can't win it decisively right away, then I might as well just leave. I'm not going to win it. So that means I typically have a strategy where I wait for somebody, I give people a rope and I wait for them to make a mistake. And then they should, once they need, but of course, the worst thing that happens is occasionally I encounter people with accountability avoidance syndrome, in which case they, instead of learning what they need to learn and me fixing the problem, which would happen if they'd stay there and try to listen to me and work with me, is they run away and avoid accountability, and then I create another spite monkey. But yeah, all of my approach to, if I have to go to battle, it's going to be shock and awe. I want this thing over immediately. I mean, that sort of thing, try again, is the reason it links to FI is you have to know you want to do that really badly. So I keep trying again on music, trying to make the perfect track, an NI perfect hit, you know? I keep trying again. I keep trying again on the videos. It's because the making of the video is consistent with my dominant frame, namely that, oh, here's an idea I want to play with, and then I do, and I can finish playing with it and be done and have an object that's permanent, and then go and play with the next thing. So in that sense, it's consistent with my frame, so I can try again, because it's not asking me to have any self-discipline, really. Self-discipline is a big problem for an NETI person. We don't like to have our SE messed with at all. We don't like to be told, here's where you need to go now, here's what you need to do now, unless it's a one-off, right? Like, I'm perfectly happy being a follower as long as it's an experience and not a state of affairs. Rachel broke up with me last night, Cloud. So the point is, I honestly love Rachel, and I've already indicated to her that I am not going to let her break up with me at any point when she's not herself. I'm not interested in taking advantage of her mistakes to excise her from my life. And I think plenty of people have been over the course of her life. Lots of people have been interested in taking advantage of her mistakes to hammer in some fashion. I am absolutely not looking to hammer Rachel about anything. I mean, I can easily imagine breaking up with a future president, Cloud, because if you're going to be a first lady, if you're going to be my spouse, you're going to have to get accustomed to some stretches of time where you feel like you're taking a backseat to other affairs. And, in a good, loving partnership, relationship, intimate relationship, romantic relationship, whatever you want to call it, like Rachel and I have, it really needs to be team first. She and I are a team. Now, as team members, we do different things as individuals, but those individual things we're doing ought to coordinate with each other to be always serving the team. So I get the way that my ambitions run afoul of some of my ideal responsibilities as a partner. And that could be concerning to a woman. And she could very fairly and reasonably say, I don't think I'm up for this. And I would have to respect that, Hi, Sean. I think you're only stupid about relevancy for yourself, Horse Mumbler. I think you're great about it for other people. No, I'm happy in my relationship, Cloud. I'm with the person I want to be with. Whether or not she's with the person she wants to be with is a fair question, because I do come with some baggage, you know. Like you said, if I'm going to be doing jobs that require my full attention, then I'm not going to have a lot of attention left for my relationship partner during those stretches of time when I'm doing those jobs. You know, if I were a long haul trucker, I think Rachel would probably respond a lot better because I'd be gone actually physically rather than here physically, but gone metaphysically. But at the same time, I can't do what I need to do without giving it my full attention. I'm very curious to see, watching the coming days and weeks, to see how this Richard Dawson video does, to see if I'm onto something here. As again, this is a new development in part because after ignoring it for a long time, I was like, hey, why is this Don Adams video doing so much better right now than other kinds of videos? Like, why is it doing so well? Well, the answer is it's the second search result for Don Adams. So I can get that for Richard Dawson too, and maybe a few other like celebrity types. Then all of a sudden you got some videos with some legs that can earn some money consistently over time, whether you're without you having to do anything new, they're still working for you. But if I don't have videos like that are working for me, then I'm going to have to always be working. Well, I mean, the alternative to that sort of approach would be one in which constrains me more, and that may or may not be one that I can follow through on. And it's like I said, there's so many different possible ways you can go about YouTube that I have to make a decision about what to do within that frame too. Of the fact that there are angles that require more long-term commitment and angles that require more, that allow more flexibility, and one ought to consider that in weighing which approaches are preferable. You are a relationship expert, Cloud. You are the best at relationship stuff. Can you tell types by speech patterns? Sometimes. I can generally tell NTPs by how they talk. I can generally tell 7th slot FE, but particularly INTJs. I can usually tell INTJs by how they talk. ISTJs to a lesser extent, but sort of too. Yeah. What's
Rachel left her phone on the couch last night. I got it.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
He'll be out in maybe 10, 15 minutes. He's looked at your unit. Can he get to it?
Yeah, does he need to come in here?
Okay.
Okay.
Cloud, will you not, please? Yeah, we do need ESTJs. The ESTJs are kind of critically important. That's why I'm able to sit here and live stream with you guys, is because I have an ESTJ dad. Otherwise, I'd be, scrambling in life more. So, pretty important. And it's like what I can do for my dad is very easy, but very limited. What I can do for my dad is as follows. I can sit and listen to him talk to me in the afternoons and evenings about what he wants to say, and just listen and nod and agree. And he never listens to what I have to say at all, which is fine. he's earned this. He's earned it. Utility is not always positive, but my dad's a pretty special guy. He's an ESTJ, but boy, does he really want? He really wants other people happy? His family in particular. He really loves his family, and it's important to him. And the people in his family are important. And if you're in inner circle, then he has some clear expectations, and he's an 8 too, so he doesn't put up with any bullshit. But he cares. He cares about people in a way that I don't think about people the way that he does. He doesn't. I don't think about his interests the way that he thinks about mine. I try to, but he's a really good guy. Yeah, I have nothing but the utmost respect for my dad. But I also think my dad's an unusual ESTJ. I think that very few ESTJs are as well optimized as my dad is. Of course, he made the life for himself that he wanted to have, and he's really got things structured so that he doesn't experience too much ESTJ style frustration. That's the long and the short of it. We're all paying in the ass, but you can count on when you need them. Well, the thing is, she's sleeping. It worked. It worked like a champ. I didn't give her. She listened to me and took a Klonopin last night. And she was talking to Octavia Silva, I think. And then she said to Octavia Silva, I'm going to bed. She went and slept on the couch because I don't know if anybody here was here then, but you may recall her breaking up with me last night. So she was sleeping on the couch at first. This morning when I went in about 6 a.m. to get her up off the couch and move her into the bedroom, she was happy to come in there, but laid back down in the bed and went right back to sleep. So that worked. Now that shit worked. Here's the thing. I specifically didn't want and told them to drink ahead of time. I don't want benzos. But I was talked into it on the grounds that, I was anticipating not having to use it, hopefully for a long time, not having to use one of those pills for a long time. But the problem is this medicine change made it necessary to use it right away. We can't use it again for at least a week because I don't want to have her have any kind of benzo addiction, right? Or be into benzos. Benzos are bad news. If you're talking about recreational drugs. Nobody should take them for fun, I don't think, in my opinion. This is just my drug opinion, but I'm not remotely tempted to take any of Rachel's medication. Not even remotely. It's like I don't want to take that shit. But regardless, the thing is, a sleeping pill like Ambien or Lunesta, which is what I was asking for. I asked for Lunesta. I got something stronger than that, which is Klonopin. But the problem with those sleeping pills apparently is they cause sleepwalking, a lot of sleepwalking. Like not just occasionally, some like few percent. Well, the guy said like 20% of people sleepwalk probably. So that's not too bad. I mean, my ignored function is not relevant, everyone. I totally disagree with that. I think that most people, if they were asked about, I know it is, I know it's a benzo. The point is, I wanted a pill that I could give her when as needed when she's going off the rails, and that's what the doctor gave me for that. And so, and the doctor and I and Rachel all agree that basically I should be in charge of the Klonopin and deciding when she takes it, because this one specific symptom of the mental health episode is that she lacks objective self-critique, and so can't tell that she maybe does need it. I'm not worried about her taking it for kicks. There's zero chance of this girl like abusing these drugs. She doesn't want to be on all these drugs. She understands she has to be on drugs of some sort, because if not, then she just goes off the rails. But it's like, the reason I don't want to give her any more Klonopin for at least a week is that I don't want her getting addicted to it. And if you get addicted to benzos, you got yourself a world of hurt coming off of them, from what I understand. I've never done them. I've probably taken one time that I didn't know or something, like maybe, I don't know. I can't remember any time I've ever taken a benzo, but it's possible I took Valium one time. I don't know. Regardless, I hate pills as a general rule. So, I mean, all these drugs are hardcore. Like, I don't want her on Ambien either. Ambien is crazy hardcore. What I was looking to get was something less hardcore than Ambien, called Lunesta, that I was for temporary insomnia. Well, I read that as exactly what we're looking for. Something that's going to knock you out one night, but you don't want to take it every day. I don't want her taking those every day. She's going to have to take some sort of antipsychotic every day. The one she's on right now, I forget what it's called, dissolves under the tongue. It's like it's a drug that you need to put onto it's a drug you need to snort, basically. But of course, you don't snort prescription drugs, but you could boof it, you could snort it. I talked to the psychiatrist about whether or not they had a suppository form of it, because he has this complicated thing that he was explaining to her about how she has to put it under her tongue, let it sit there under her tongue, and dissolve under her tongue for at least a long time, for like several minutes or whatever, to try not to whatever I was saying. Yeah, well, no, we don't want to live in a world of only NTP and NTJ. ESFJ, this is my experience with an ESFJ ex-wife who was functionally the mother to my child for years. I mean, she told the doctor she smokes pot every day. He asked if it helped. She said, yeah. And I said, but not enough. That's not enough to get her to go to sleep. He said, yeah, it's not going to be enough to get her to go to sleep. And that was the extent of our conversation about it. This is California. We're sensible around here. I don't want to live in a world of only NTP and NTJ. So anyway, she has to take the one she has to take on the daily. She has to put it under her tongue. The Klonopin is a pill, and she's supposed to take half of it first, and then if it doesn't work, the other half. I think she took both halves last night, and I believe she's still in bed. She's asleep. She was last time I went in there to poop, which wasn't that long ago. She was out. So I mean, by out I mean she was certainly. I was able to, without a lot of trouble, get her up. Yeah, come on in. Come in.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Don't mind my get up.
That's fine.
With everybody freaking out, it's the best for everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess.
Freaking out is right.
Oh, it's madness. The best part is you go to the grocery store, or just go to any store and watch people what they're buying. It's stupid.
Oh, incredibly stupid.
Hey!
That's okay. She can go outside.
Oh, shit,
she's
sorry.
fine. Yeah, she comes in and out if she
I'm
wants.
trying to squish the cat. No, don't leave.
No, she comes in and out if she wants. You need a ladder or something?
No, I think I'm good. Look at that. I can just reach.
Where's the little stiffies? Right there, too, for your FY. There's a little
Oh
green.
no, I'm too heavy. I'll squish that thing.
Okay.
But thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I also agree that this full body thing is ridiculous.
No, it's kind of it's interesting. At minimum, it's interesting.
Nobody actually ran through intelligent calculus about whether or not this worldwide quarantine is a good idea.
Well, I actually know people who did get the virus.
Yeah.
Several people,
Mm-hmm.
older people, but spread out through different areas of my life, like my church in the mountains. Pastor's wife got it.
Really?
Luckily, I don't attend service that often, but still, it was one of those. Oh wow! And then a friend of mine works for a medical company. Like 3 guys in his company have it because they're in hospitals all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's like, ooh.
Do they have any symptoms?
Oh yeah. The whole, the regular fever.
It's a cold,
Yada,
right?
yada.
A bad
It's
cold.
a nasty flu.
Okay.
That's what I call it.
All right.
So, I don't know. Whatever. I wash my hands so much now. It's like, God, I can't remember ever doing this.
No, Chris Chapman, a higher level, like a black belt, is better than a yellow belt. Okay? Like that. But in being human instead of karate. Right? Right, Cloud? Now do you understand, Chris Chapman? Now do you finally understand? Oh, for goodness sakes. I am not going to change basic protocols because there's a flu going around, for God's sakes. Now, I've heard some anecdotal evidence here that it's like a bad flu or something, but I've also heard that most people who get it don't experience those kind of symptoms. The ones we're hearing about are always going to be the most serious cases. Nobody pays attention to me when I say that's determinant on the matter. They all go like, "Nuh-uh, be careful, don't touch things, wash your hands," or whatever. Cloud is not an INTJ. He is so much too haphazardly provocative to be an INTJ. INTJs might be very provocative, but they wouldn't be so haphazardly so. Not that there's anything wrong with haphazard. It's one way of organizing things. See, that's why I get pissed off about one particular thing and suggested it was because I was connecting the concepts of childhood trauma, which I was never aware of, but she picked up on instantly. Who said that? Your poop? Irritating you is not my goal. It's the consequence of your weakness. I like that, Cloud. I like that. That's cool. I like that. Effie can be alluring. The thing is, Effie has a has an awareness that includes you. It's the only cognitive function that has an awareness that includes you. I mean, other things operate in ways that are available to you. In other words, that you're a part of. Like TI is something that is designed to be the way that people can reach agreement, by which people have to justify things that, whim doesn't rule the day. Whim doesn't rule the day. Whim isn't made out of hay. INFP, emotional understanding relationship. People don't realize because they don't talk about it, they are fucking deep. Well, I'll tell you this, I say the name. I dated an INFP. And when we started dating, she predicted exactly what was going to happen at the end of the relationship, at the beginning of the relationship. She said, you don't have the patience to wait for me to be ready to. The timing on this is wrong. You don't have the patience yet to wait for me to come, and I'm not going to be ready to go, and you're going to be insisting that I have to come here, and that's going to be the end of it. And that's exactly how it fucking played out, like within the course of 3 months or something. I'm going to move my camera over here now because he's coming in. Okay. Well, look, it's only the ENFJs that are less well realized, I guess. I know that there are plenty of good incarnations of ENFJ. There's nothing authoritarian about Megan Laboda, as far as I can tell. For example, she's not out there trying to force singular ideologies on people. She seems like a nice lady. We all have manifestations that are individual of our respective types that are ugly manifestations of those types. And we have more appealing manifestations of those types and more decent manifestations, The thing is, for the most part, ENFJs probably do people a lot of good with that tool function NI and their fourth slot TI. They're presenting stuff to people that's easily understood. It's one of the challenges I have. When I try to convey what I would consider to be, I don't know, meaningful guidance about the subject of moral agency, I don't necessarily know if I make it really easy to understand by a broad group of people. ENFJs have that unique ability. Now, one of the things that they do that I think is bad, they do it kind of accidentally and instinctually, and they're not trying to be bad or whatever, is this: they tend to have this piece of information or advice that says, you just got to let the past go. The solution is just let it go. Just let go of your past. Well, that's fine for people who have
remembering their past is their blind spot. Or, it's like if you're polar SI, it's easy to forget your past. In fact, it happens without you trying. But if you're an SI Dom, that advice is basically saying, be a different type of person than you are right now. Be a different person than you are. And then that's not going to be good advice to them. So it's important to recognize where one's wisdom's universalized and where they don't. Winston's mom says, "Host Eric, what type is your tool function over? What type is the guy working on the air conditioning thing? He seems like an FE Dom, probably. Do you know? He's a friend, nice gentleman here. We talked about, you've probably heard us talk about the virus a little bit, and I would say probably he's an extroverted feeler. He seems got good extroverted feeling. He puts on those little boots before he comes inside and everything, so that's nice. I guess you have to be you probably get some very fussy people, huh? Who, if you get a little bit of dirt on their shit, they get all freaked out. Yeah.
Then I get to clean it up.
And then you get to clean it up. Oh, okay, well, don't worry. If you get any dirt around here, I'm not going to notice it at all. So, let's see. John Henry, hello. Sean, thank you. Lyra Fajikal says, I think I'm ex-NTP, and when I lived with my ENFP mom, we just fought about who would do all the SI shit. Yeah, well, the thing is, if you got SI in the third slot, it's selfish. You want to do your own SI stuff, and you don't want anybody to interfere with it, and you don't really value it. In other words, it doesn't constrain you regarding other people very much. So it's not like you're worried about their SI at all if you're third slot. Winston's mom. Winston's mom in the live stream would like to know if you play video games. I don't know what his name is. You're making me awkward FE here, Winston's mom. That's some polar FE. We got quite a little flood in the backyard. We got a lot of rain last night. Raining up a storm. Raining up a storm. Oh, John Henry, what worked? I'm referring to the pill that Rachel took last night to make her sleep. She is, as far as I know, still asleep, but even if she's not, she's probably just not waking up. She was sort of fighting me on taking it a little bit last night, but when she took it, it was maybe within an hour, and she was lights out. I tried to go move her in from the couch in the middle of the night. It would require too much jostling and stuff to get her up. So I just let her crash there. I moved her back into the bed at 6 a.m. instead. So, of course, I didn't clean up all the evidence of her sleeping there. So my dad comes in and says, Rachel left her phone on the couch last night. Okay, Dad. That's your way of telling me. I know shit's going down. Well, yeah, shit is going down, but we should be fine now. Let's see. I don't know. We'll see how she is this morning. But she had it is on it, but I didn't look at the front. He didn't introduce himself. He just a couple of dudes. It's like when you get a couple of dudes in the mix like this who are just want to get their respective roles in the thing taken care of quickly and easily, then there's no idle chit chat. There's an episode of The Simpsons where Apu goes to live with Marge and Homer for a while. I don't remember why he goes to live with and he's helping Marge during the day to understand how to better shop at the store, right? And he's like, there's two lines in the store. One of them has an old lady. It has one person in line, which has an old lady with a cart full of stuff. And the other has like 6 guys in line, single guys with like one item each. And Apu goes, the shortest line is not the shortest always. Because the single guy goes, single main cash, no chit chat. People, as when two men encounter each other in an instrumental fashion like this, there's sort of a set of cues that say, "See ya, thank you very much. You're welcome." That say, "No idle chit chat necessary." No, you don't have to worry about my feelings. It's basically what it goes like. It's like we can dispatch with the niceties, and two dudes are sort of like, hey, yeah, we can dispatch with the niceties, and let's just get this done, and both dudes will be down with that. Well, MT, it appears that YouTube has stopped suppressing me. From what I can tell, it's treating me like it used to. I was stuck on 5,860 subscribers for literally months. It would go right in that range. Go up a few, down a few, up a few, down a few, right there. Just 5,860. And then about a week ago or so, all of a sudden I started getting subscribers. Now I'm at 5,900 or something. So, and also I've been watching my side videos. When I've been logged into TWFP archives, what I noted was even if I were watching a TWFP video, it wouldn't put any TWFP videos in the recommended videos on the side. Well, that's changed recently. Now all of a sudden, the first top 3 or 4 are. So anyway, I mean, I wouldn't say, I think you're mistaking TE and NI for each other, Claude. So that's my answer to that. Not all successful things in life are successful because they followed an ordinal procedural plan. And in fact, that's not even necessarily TE. So, for example, one could take a piecemeal approach towards TEing a channel. Well, first I'll TE this part over here, as I feel like, and I'll sort of TE this part. And what I mean by TE it, I mean I'll try to make it more NI. It's assuming you've got it with NI, okay? And try to make it more NI. But the thing about YouTube is what Frank James is using is FE, and it's very similar, or it works very similarly with YouTube. He's saying what's going to work better socially, and let me try to do that. The TE is how to get him to do the thing that he's decided will work better socially. So he had to do TE to figure out how to make the green screen work, probably. Or maybe his brother helped him with that. But the ideational stuff, understanding what's going to work well, that's FE, not TE. His FE is crafted, correct. That's communicative FE. That's extra FE. That works really well. You're right. That's absolutely consistent with second slot FE and NI. He's definitely an INFJ. Claude, we already established that your definitions of functions are nonsense. And that you don't want to make them sense because you won't meet any burdens to explain what you mean such that the term would be operationalized. In other words, we can't do anything with terms the way you define them because you're not interested in having them used in that fashion. So yeah, I think YouTube's working out some bugs right now. I feel pretty. I just know this, that in all of the time that I've been suppressed, it hasn't seemed to have affected search, which is a factor in why I made this Richard Dawson video. Okay, so the Richard Dawson video is a good example of good NI, actually. Me actually using good NI for a change. The the way that the video came out so clean and nicely edited and sounds good and everything, that has a lot to do with me applying TE. Knowing what decisions to make in the media are NIFE. So if you look at that Richard Dawson video, okay, can I explain NI to you? Let me try to give you let me try to use NI in explaining it first by kind of coalescing shit down to the NI more nugget. One time in Kansas, it's interesting. I'll meta-analyze it afterwards. One time in Kansas, I was asking Taylor about what he thought I should do regarding this woman I was seeing who was married and who was very conventionally gorgeous. And I was seeing her, and I was asking sort of advice as to whether or not this made sense. Were my justifications making sense? And Taylor said, "What does your NI tell you, Eric, that I should leave?" This is crazy. That's what I thought. I didn't say it out loud, but he kicked my NI into gear. It had a singular, definite, and correct answer. I had no business being with this married woman. That's it. That's NI right there. It's not reading between the lines. It's recognizing that no matter how much argumentation you make within this node, it's all going to be extraneous to what's determinate. It doesn't matter how much extra salt and parsley and whatever I add to this dish, it's ruined because it's burned. It's NI. It's determinate. So, understanding things through the frame of determinacy results in stuff like what happened last night with Rachel when she's having an episode of uncharacteristically doom and gloom thinking and negativity. It's because she's attended to a reality that, because of her native frame, tends to frame out as this dish is burned, it's ruined. In other words, it understands things in terms of what's determinate. So whatever it is it's understanding is going to frame through it, that thing being determinate towards something. Since last night she was understanding a reality of a rough spot between us that was NI correct, namely that I was distracted a lot and not giving her attention and kind of disconnected emotionally for a couple of days. She had that NI truth about that reality, but she oughtn't have treated that reality itself as though it were an NI truth. And that's what she did. So, in other words, what happened was we had some trouble chopping up the onions for our dish. We ran up out because the knife broke. We had to get another knife out, and we had some trouble chopping up the onion. It didn't impact the dish at all. In fact, it may have helped us refine how we chop onions in the future. But because she's used to interpreting things as determinate in matters, when she's not functioning optimally, she'll take that onion chopping incident and conclude that it's ruined the dish because things are determinate and this is about the dish, therefore it must be determinate about the dish. Does that make sense? I mean, I know it makes sense, but do you understand that? I normally hate it when people say, I don't know if that makes any sense or does that make sense? It does make sense, but is more clarification desired on that? And so it's like that. This is helpful for me because it's making me understand how it is that Rachel, like what's going on with Rachel, and why it is that I can reliably dismiss certain things that happen when she's functioning non-optimally. It is true, I say thee nay, that I do not doubt that I tend to cast NI too much in the INFJ frame because I both am with an INFJ, SI reasons, and because of, I guess you'd say, ontological reasons, namely, I am FBTI and INTJ is TENI, and TE is fairly distant from my worldview. So, yeah, I think that's fair. Whole object relations. This is the ability to see oneself and other people as having both liked and disliked traits and behaviors. I'm saying she left to a negative conclusion because of misinformation. No, I'm saying she's correct. Her NI is correct about the moment, the SI, that she's not feeling it right now with me. And that's the reason for that is because there genuinely is a bit of a disconnect as I take Adderall and work on shit. And she feels kind of ignored or neglected. And I respect that. And it's something we can talk about, right? I think that if we were to talk about it, if we were to talk about it in a way that assumes the whole is sound, and this moment deviates from that soundness, then we wouldn't have any difficulties dealing with it because we would just say, I'm always responsive to I'm always responsive to working together, to working with me, or me working with you, if you're my relationship partner. But what I'm not responsive to is she starts with what I'm very much counter responsive to. She begins by framing this as a reason why maybe we aren't compatible, maybe we aren't meant to be together, rather than as some deviance from a norm that suggests maybe we need to make some adjustments towards how we relate to each other or interact with each other, behave in the moment. If you're critiquing behaviors like, okay, Eric, you're a little too hardcore into your shit right now, and you're really distracted and really detached, and it's bothering me a lot. That's a fine thing to say. But if you begin with the idea that this means something larger than that too, it must also fit into the NI frame. It must also be representative of something that's determinate about the relationship not being viable. Then that's going to cause damage unless I can reasonably dismiss those words entirely. I do need to know that I'm in a relationship with somebody whose understanding of the statuses of the relationship as a whole aren't fluttering in the wind, right? And that's something that's important to me, that I know that, as I said to Rachel before, that I don't need to know that you're never going to break up with me. I need to know that before you break up with me will be a long series of months of fights where things get slowly worse and worse and worse and worse, and then we break up. That you're not going to pull the rug out from under me and decide all of a sudden that you made a mistake and bail. Well, that's basically what she's pushing on right there. Is one spot where I need full cooperation and agreement and not behaviors to the contrary. Of course, it's not Rachel I'm dealing with there. It's somebody who's in a very non-optimal state. However, different instances of non-optimality seem and sound less or more cogent. And to the extent that she sounds reasonably cogent, I try to afford her the benefit of the doubt and not delegitimize stuff she's saying. It's a tricky road to walk because I need to both respect her agency and therefore listen seriously to what she's saying, and also know precisely which aspects of her language I ought legitimately dismiss because it's introverted intuition gone awry, and which instances I ought to take from whatever wisdom there is because it is the introverted intuition that is going awry. We do get no, I get along really well with Rachel. I mean, we get along beautifully. It's amazing how well we get along. It's just that there are periods like this. This is why this is the difference between somebody who is genuine mental illness and people who are difficult. People who are difficult enough have what are called personality disorders. That's not a mental illness. That's being really, really difficult. Rachel is not that. I mean, the thing is, I don't believe her last night. I don't believe that Rachel, because that Rachel comprises a tiny fraction of the time I spend with Rachel, and contradicts what she says the other times. So in that regard, I don't believe her when she said to me the other day, dropped her off at the emergency room. She said, "I hate you." I may be bipolar, but even I don't believe that. So the thing is, it changes all of your relationship equations when the problems that I'm talking about are plausible things that one could normally have in a relationship would be a problem. And additionally, are actual things in this relationship that are probably worth addressing. But that no matter what she's expressing the illness about, it will be about something. And because she's an NI dom, it's going to be about something that's actually a real thing. However, the illness is going to always make of that real thing something that it's not. And so it's a challenging chessboard for me to look at and respond to. The thing I may give me a certain amount of glee is I'm aware increasingly, I bet I'm pretty confident I'm the only person who can handle this situation. It's like I'm the only one who can do this. I'm the only one who understands well enough. Maybe there's somebody else out there, but why is it that Rachel has such a limited group of people that she can talk to? You know, so she doesn't really have friends coming into this relationship of her own. Well, it's because most people throw her away at some point because they mistake an episode of non-optimality for an indication of who she is. And I would like to liberate her from that vicious cycle of getting close to people, those people realizing who she is and then leaving her, right? Because they're wrong when they say they realize who she is. That's not who she is. That's the opposite of who she is. And it requires somebody who's got a lot of resources ontologically to handle the potentially toxic language that emerges during one of those non-optimal stages after that, and to genuinely allow it to sort of flush out and not be representative of what she thinks. Because remember, again, on one level, she's dealing with NI truth that's true. And so it's very challenging for her to navigate after the fact, because she can't exactly disavow what she said because it's true. But she can and does disavow what she concluded from it, which is the more important thing. So, and I think she's had trouble parsing out that distinction as she's tried to explain herself in the past. Only to respond as well as I can when she's in that state. I'm also here to help her navigate the aftermath of it, and to together for us to figure out what is the best possible way a couple could deal with something like this. Let's be that. You know, right now, some people question whether or not this is a good thing for me to be making public this stuff. Of course, it's the only thing I can do. First of all, I talk about my life on the internet. It's what I do. But secondly, yes, absolutely the best thing I could do, because by talking it all out, I get increasing clarity about it. I need my SI to know things. I need to have said to me shit that's been said to her a million times so I get where she's coming from. Like, how many times have people given her unsolicited advice about what she ought to do? And very well-meaning people who are unaware of the fact that the entirety of her experience is regarding this stuff is people ignoring her, what she says, and then telling her what to do instead. The entirety of her experience until me. Nobody's put her in the driver's seat regarding this. Nobody said, this is your self. This medication and this medicine and this involvement with the healthcare system is for your benefit. And you are driving this bus. You guide us here. Nobody said that to her. So in that sense, I feel a great joy in my heart for having the opportunity to be with somebody who helps me shape my own ontology so much. And she does. She makes me understand things that I would otherwise be childish about. And she makes me have to be nuanced in my response to stuff that I can get away with not being nuanced in my response to. In other words, it's very easy to smash someone for their bad behaviors and go, you did this and you said this and I'm going to make you suffer for it. And these are the natural consequences of your own bad behavior. And that's appropriate for people who have accountability avoidance syndrome. Absolutely appropriate. It's the only cure for accountability avoidance syndrome, is hammering them with their wrongness. But for people who are vulnerable and real, like Rachel, she's making mistakes that before people have used against her, either justly or unjustly or whatever, it doesn't matter, that have justified those people acting against her in some fashion, severing the relationship, scolding her, trying to remove her agency, or other things. And when she makes mistakes, they are used against her. She's not allowed to get away with things. Well, she's absolutely allowed to, encouraged to, and I want her to get away with things. To make mistakes and have that mistake not come back to haunt her at all. Rather, to have it inform us both into a more complete understanding of who we are as individuals and as a couple and so forth. All that kind of stuff. All those good words. I remember Kimberly was so difficult to talk to. She said, what do you want me to say? I'd say something, and then she'd just sit there silently. I'd be like, right? And what do you want me to say? Look, I'm trying to do good work here, right, Kimberly? I'm trying to say words that are good for our relationship rather than words that are bad about our relationship. What do you want me to say when you say it? Just anything to acknowledge you're on the same team. So I'm like, those are good words would be fine. That's the only thing she actually took my advice on, and periodically would say to me, those are good words. And I'd be like, Jesus, talk about a hill to climb here. That's not the case with Rachel. So she's, as far as I know, still asleep. I need to go in. I need to wrap this up and go in. I'm going to smoke the cigarette and then I'm going to wrap this up and go see how she's doing. I moved her from the couch to the bed morning at 6 a.m. That's about 4 hours ago. I've been in there about, 2 hours and 15 minutes ago, probably, when I went to poop. And I'll go back in right now and see what she's doing. But the Klonopin worked beautifully. She was out last night. I couldn't even move her from the couch to the bedroom until 6 a.m. It was just been too much effort to get her up. She was so, you know. No, I don't confuse them. In this particular instance, I was sharing a story about Kimberly to relate how Rachel's different. That's not NI. Or is there another one coming? I think there's another one coming. No, I don't think he means that. I think he means still coming, right? And that would not be a good NI definition. That would be a good TI definition. That'd be an NI definition of TI. I think the best definition of NI is, there we go. Here's the definition. Processes and product of coming to a singular sense of an irreducible truth or certainty indirectly derived from, but not limited to, determined aspects of multiple points of not necessarily linked data. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's pretty operational. I mean, I think the quickest definition of it is that aspect of existence that links to synergy, namely where sums are, wholes are sometimes greater than sums of parts. Well, I think Kimberly had been trained by life and psychologists who she worked with to change her expectations. She'd never been, nobody ever said, you need to learn to trust, because that had gotten her in trouble. But that's exactly what she needed to learn to do, to really trust and trust the right person. It's challenging being an ISFJ if you don't have the right person. It was too late for her. I mean, her SI Dom, she came into that shit with 45 years of history that didn't include me. It doesn't matter how much I was potentially the right person at some point in her life. SI Dom can't rebuild everything from scratch like that quickly at all, frankly. You can't teach an old dog new tricks is a saying that was invented about SI DOMs. All right. So look, it's important to remember that NI has the same quality of SI, which is it's a knowledge function. That which relates to NI doesn't relate to that which needs further deliberation. That's the one quality that distinguishes a knowledge function from a deliberation function on the internal fields, okay? So when you are operating by an intentional manner that includes introverted intuition, you're operating by an intentional manner that knows heuristically, in the same way that TE knows heuristically. TE knows heuristically that somebody's right because they have the biggest number of letters after their name. They're the biggest expert. They're published. All these other symbols of competency that are used to replace TI in deciding who's right. Okay, it's a heuristic. NI is the same sort of heuristic. instead of queuing in on the parts of a thing that are parsable, that you can definitively say are right or wrong, it says, I don't need to definitively say it's right or wrong in a defensible way. I just need to know whether it's right or wrong for my purposes. And so it knows holistically whether it's right or wrong. Now, you can ask NI people about things that are parsable, TI questions, for example. A lot of INFJs, especially, but I assume INTJs as well, will know the correct answer to a question about validity or invalidity without parsing it out. So they don't need to think it through or do the sort of quick TI that I do real time on those things. They just know. Now, of course, NI can be very misleading regarding those things if those things are designed to mislead NI, because there are plenty of counterintuitive, logical consistency issues, things that you can point to. Like, it would seem to me that a good example of a question that NI might know the answer to is the HATS question. The HATS question can be parsed out, but you might grasp it. So, for example, okay, well, the hat's got to be white. Well, why? I'm not sure yet, but it's an NI thing. Well, can you tell me why? Well, because of what they each know. That would be sort of an indication that the person has an NI sense of why it's that without really parsing it out. Another kind of NI answer is an NITE answer to the troll question. How do you deal with a troll who's stealing 10% of all the food that gets boated across the river when you have the people on two sides of the river? Well, the NITE answer is move the people, not the food. It's the singular determinate answer to the question. If somebody's stealing your food on the transit from people group A to people group B, then move people B to people group A and eliminate the transit if you can. But because of the way that language works and the framing of things, it's presumed that there's a need to move the food, or else we wouldn't be moving the food in the first place. And that's why it takes NI to break through that presumption and know that the truth is larger than the frame. NITE is how you're going to answer that question. Who is most likely types to get that answer? Is probably INTP. And the reason is because demonstrative NI and absolute value TE. You might say it should be INTJ. They're equally probably likely to get that answer, although they're probably more likely to give a physical answer like catapult the food, which is another good answer. Or of course, the NI solutions, you could say, well, there's a lot of NI answers to that. For example, kill the troll. Kill the troll is a very NI answer to the question of how to deal with this. Eliminate the thing that's stealing your food is a straight up answer. But then when you encounter difficulties doing that, then depending on how good your intuition is how well you deal with those difficulties. When you're dealing with a non-intuitive and you're actually asking that question, and they start having difficulties killing the troll, they typically they're slow to switch strategies, and when they do switch strategies, they may not have a lot of other strategies in mind. So it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to kill the troll. What am I going to do? And they usually think, well, maybe I can lure the troll away. Is the second thought with a woman troll. Intuitives explore the frame more, and they go, all right, well, what exactly can I do in this thing we're doing here? And they'll think about who they can talk to and ways they can talk. This is meta-analysts will think about this, especially after the fact. Maybe not in the moment, but they'll think about it after the fact. What are the different ways I could have interacted with that narrator person, Eric, in order to glean more information from the story? Or what sort of things are legitimate? What is the grammar of this world here? How much freedom do I have? All right, that's it. I gotta wrap this up. It's 3 hours now. Thanks for being here, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you haven't watched it yet, please do take a moment to watch my my Richard Dawson video and like it, please, if you do. I would appreciate it. I'd like to see this video be a good performer for me, if possible. I think it deserves to be. I worked hard on trying to make it successful on metrics that are non-personal. In other words, it's trying to be entertaining, good media that you could watch on TV without any kind of weirdness or anything like that. So anyway, thanks a lot for being here. Please do watch that video if you don't mind taking a moment to watch it. It's 11 minutes long, but it's very tightly edited. It's a good video. And thanks again. See you later.